Hi guys! Alright, are you ready to do another watercolor? I hope so. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to Lucas Paper. He was the one who found this project and started on it on his own, and I was so excited about it that I decided that we should do it together. So for this tree, this is going to be Colorful Tree, and you will need a piece of your mixed media paper. You will need your medium size round brush, your medium sized, whatever that is. You'll need your large and small Sharpie, a B pencil, your watercolors, something to protect your table, and something to hold water in. Let's get started. First, we're going to do our sketch. We're going to use our B pencil, and we're going to give a mark just a little ways away from the bottom. That's going to be the bottom of our tree. And then we're going to start our tree going up the center of our paper. So it's going to go pretty straight to begin with. And then we're just giving ourselves kind of an idea of where some limbs might go. So off of this, we're going to have some curvy, I'm not sure curvy is really, not straight though. Lines that come out in each direction. Maybe there's a little branch that comes off there. Maybe there's a bigger branch that comes off here. Maybe this branch comes up and forks away. Maybe this one comes out and forks away. Maybe there's one that comes off of here. So something like that. This gives us an overall feeling of the structure, which starts with a pretty straight trunk. Now this trunk is much too thin for all of these branches. So now that we know where it is, we're going to go ahead and thicken it up. We're going to draw a line just to the right of it and just to the left of it. Now, the great thing about drawing trees is that everybody's tree can be a little bit different because Mother Nature just does different things with different trees, and so you don't have to worry about yours being just exactly the same as mine. It can have its own unique qualities. But one thing is true about trees, they are much skinnier all the way out at the end of these limbs. And those limbs get thinner and thinner the further away they are from the trunk. So I'm going to just thicken up the part of the limbs that are closest to the trunk. These that are out here, I'm going to leave very, very thin. And then these are going to get progressively just a little bit thicker. So you can do as detailed of a sketch as you would like. However, you can see I started to put in the smaller limbs over here. There's going to be more over here as well, but I think for now I've done enough with my pencil. I'm going to put it away, and I'm going to get my thin Sharpie and start going over the drawing if I'm happy with it. I'm just remembering that as I make my branches, the closer that they get to the main trunk, they start to thicken up just a little bit. I just love working with Sharpie. It gives you a nice defined black line. And if you end up making a limb where you think it's in a goofy place, the Sharpie makes you really commit to it. You have to figure out how to make it work. And I love that because art is not just about doing things one way. There's no real right way. You can defy all of the rules and suggestions and end up making something really cool. So if you find yourself with a mistake to deal with, just know you're not the first person to be in that boat, and all you have to do is find a paddle, make it work for you, see what you can do. The secret to making these lifelike trunks is to go slow enough so that you can get that feel where they get thinner as they go further away from the trunk. Another characteristic of a lot of trees is that the limbs come in at a V, kind of an angle down toward the bottom of the trunk. So they don't come in straight into the side. They kind of start to angle down toward the trunk base. And I'm going to make this widen enough so that it looks visually like it would really actually hold up. I'm just going to let it kind of die into the ground, like so. Now see, I didn't mean to make that happen. And every time I make a mistake, it's because I'm going too fast. So now I need to see if I can figure out how to make it a little bit more natural looking. And since I know that always happens when I go too fast, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to slow down so that I don't feel rushed. And so that I don't let my pen go a little bit crazy. Maybe one more little branch down here. Okay, so that looks interesting, and it's not too symmetrical, which is good because trees don't tend to be entirely symmetrical. And it seems to be doing that thing where it gets a little thicker as it's going down to the ground. I might come back up and take a look at a couple more branches and make them a little more tree-ish. I want to make sure that this gets a little bit thicker as it goes down, that it's never got a weird skinny spot. And since this trunk over here got a little thicker than I intended, maybe I'll balance it out with this over here. Art is a lot about kind of figuring things out as you go and seeing if it's nicely balanced. One trick is to take your project and turn it upside down. If it looks balanced and interesting upside down, then you're in pretty good shape. So having done that, I think I might add just a little bit more here and maybe a little bit more here. Okay, so I'm feeling good about that, and now it's time for watercolors. So we are going to do a technique today that is called wet on dry. We've done a little bit of wet and wet, where you get your paper wet and then you dab watercolor onto that wet paper. But today we're doing wet on dry. So the paper itself is going to remain dry. We're going to be using our round brush that is medium in size. And we're going to be thinking about the shape of the tree. Now, this is not going to be a lollipop tree. No, no, no. It's not a big circle. This is more of a realistic shaped tree, which means that the outside is going to be a little bit irregular. And where the branches reach out, we're going to use the watercolors to give us a sense of where the leaves are. But we're not going to do realistic individual leaves. We're just going to do the form of the tree. Now we are going to be using water. You have a cup of water. I don't have a cup, so I'm just using this bowl. And every time that we change colors, we can rinse, but we also want to load our brush with water in order to get the most out of our watercolors. So we are going to start kind of in this area over here, and you generally want to start with your lightest, brightest color because your watercolor brush doesn't have any paint in it yet, so it won't spoil a bright color. So we're going to start with this yellow. And we're just going to start here. I'm picking up some yellow with my wet brush, and I'm actually holding my brush so that it is pointing away from the trunk of the tree, and I'm putting that brush down and pulling toward the tree. That's going to give me a little bit of a irregular leaf type form. So I'm picking up more of my yellow, and I'm coming just beyond my branch, and I'm doing little strokes where I put the brush down and pull it toward me just a bit. Put it down, pull it toward me a little bit, picking up some more color, put it down, pull it toward me, down toward me, down toward me, down toward me, down toward me. And so my leafy yellow is extending out beyond my branches, each of my branches. So if my branch comes out, then my leafy yellow is going to come out. Now we're going to be doing some blending, and as I'm working with my yellow here, I'm actually going to pick up quite a bit of yellow on my brush, and then I'm going to come over and pick up a little bit of red. Quite a bit of yellow, a little bit of red. And I'm going to move to quite a bit of yellow, a little bit of red. And now I'm going to make this such a colorful tree. I'm changing my brush direction. So now I'm just picking up pure red, and again putting my brush so that it's beyond the branches, pulling toward the center of the tree. Now while my leaves are still wet, I'm going to rinse off my brush and start picking up some blue. And I started with a darker blue, but now I'm using more of a cobalt blue. And again, I'm coming back to the edges of my branches, and I'm letting the shape of my brush, since it's pointed, I'm letting the shape of my brush do the work for me. Just pulling it toward the center of my tree. And where I had that red in the center with my blue, it should blend just a little bit and become a purpley color. Where it moves in and against that yellow, it'll probably blend into a bit of a green. And now I'd like to pick up purple, which I think might be this one here. Again, now I'm at the top of my tree. Ooh, that's not a purple. Interesting. Do I have a purple? Maybe this is purple. Let's find out. Well, it's kind of just a different blue, isn't it? That's okay. I still like it. Maybe I want to come over and do a pink. Kind of a pinky. You can just do all kinds of colors. And as long as your leaves remain wet, then it'll just blur and blend into the other colors that you've worked on without totally overtaking them. I'm going to come in here and pick up some of this green. Now, one of the lovely things about watercolors is that it is semi-transparent, which is why we can still see all of our pen work underneath. So do make sure watercolor means half of it, at least half of it is water. So don't feel like you need to try to turn it into something that looks like acrylics. By the way, you can turn your paper or you can turn your brush, but keep using that pointed part of the brush to the outside so that you get the little shapes of the leaves. And down here, I might do some orange. It's not going to be very vibrant. Maybe I'll go back to yellow instead. You can just do really whatever colors get you excited. Yep. I think that orange was not the best choice because up against the green it's going to turn to mud since it's across from green on the color wheel. But it just is okay however you do this. So there you go. That's pretty neat. I love that. Very colorful. Feels like fall. So there's one more thing I'm going to do, and that is I'm going to indicate a shadow on the ground. And you can do this with just about any color that you would like, but I'm going to pick, I think blue. And I'm just going to start from the outside, horizontal, straight across from the bottom of the tree, and press down when I get to the tree. And then I might just bring this blue up the trunk. And maybe there's just a little bit of the shadow on the other side. Maybe I'll pick up a little bit of another color since the top is so colorful. And maybe I'll put a little bit of red down here on the bottom too. That shadow is just, it does a couple of things. It sets the tree firmly on the ground so that it's not floating. And it anchors it visually, and then by giving a little bit of color down here, it balances out the color that's up in the tree. So great job, guys. If you'd like, you can go ahead and take your Sharpie and you can sign your name down here. That's my signature. That's a good day. Thanks so much. Some wet into wet technique with watercolor.